Alright, you're human, which means you're constantly moving objects across time and space in exchange for colorful rectangles, hoping those rectangles eventually turn into food, comfort, or something of value to help you forget the things you spent the rectangles on last week. Surprise! That's also what a business is. A business is basically a value-creating, rectangle-collecting machine, where the goal is to sell people things they didn't know they needed by convincing them they always needed them. If we opened a business in 30 seconds, it would sound like this. Here's the thing. Do you want it? If yes, give us money. If no, we'll try yelling, then manipulating, then crying and praying until we get a yes, get over it, or go broke. Let's say our prayers get answered, then resources gather, money flows in from customers and flows out to employees, suppliers, landlords, lenders, taxes, that one subscription you forgot to cancel, and before you know it, you're making decisions. But because there's never enough of anything, time, cash, attention, every decision is like a series of awkward trade-offs, like spend here or spend there, do this or do that, hire or don't hire, buy inventory or fix the printer that's been screaming since COVID. So managing a business is very much like strategic juggling, but with consequences. Let's start mastering it by doing what every MBA does on day one. Pretend to know the customer. That's marketing. It's one part psychology, one part economics, and one part, I promise our logo is fun. Marketing strategy has 7 steps. You cannot skip them. You can try, but then your product will fail, and the customers will ghost you like your Diddy. The steps go: consumer analysis, market analysis, competitive analysis, channel review, preliminary marketing mix, economics evaluation, revision, and then you loop until your boss stops asking questions. Let's start with step 1, consumer analysis, the most pseudo of the pseudoscientific marketing arts, where you stare directly into a customer's soul and try to figure out what emotional hole you can shovel a product into. Imagine an average Joe. Yup, that's your consumer. Joe is like a bald little puzzle box full of needs, feelings, desires, irrational impulses, and money. Sometimes Joe just buys things because he's high and there's a sale or an opportunity.
You thought about buying the island.
Dude, the island was for sale. We talked about it for a second.
But the thing is, Joe doesn't wake up wanting your thing. Joe wakes up wanting something to eat, or something to feel cool with, or something to stop little Joey screaming.
So have you ever done DMT?
Every product sits inside some giant existential bucket. So first, what you gotta do is, you gotta identify Joe's need category, which is MBA speak for what weird mess Joe's into these days, and can it be our business? Needs come in all shapes: functional, emotional, social, personal, or that weird urge to buy a blender that connects to Wi-Fi for no reason. Let's say you sell baking soda, but Joe's not into baking. Don't give up just yet. Maybe he's in deodorizing refrigerators, cleaning carpets, brushing teeth, and neutralizing weird smells in his studio. Find every possible use case. That's your need universe. Next, say goodbye to Joe and figure out who buys and who uses, because they are not always the same person, which explains at least half of birthday gifts. Sometimes the buyer is a parent and the user is the toddler eating glue. Sometimes the buyer is a boss and the user is the employee going apeshit on the desktop. Sometimes the buyer is a naive little friend who misinterpreted a hint and is now on his knees in front of 18,000 strangers. And the user?
I think she's saying I can't do it right now.
So I really do like you a lot, but let's just be friends.
Wow, look at this. Wow.
Life can be brutal. If you aim your advertising at the wrong one, your product dies. And sometimes you die inside too. Now let's walk the buying process, also known as the 5-step emotional roller coaster every consumer rides. That's awareness, search, evaluation, purchase, and post-purchase feeling. You see a thing, you Google it. You compare too many versions that look identical, but have different price tags. You buy one of them because you got tired. Then you spend 3 days cursing yourself. That's called buyer's remorse. Academics don't like that term. I don't like academics. Risk also plays a role. It increases involvement. High involvement purchases, like cars, insurance, couches, and shoes with too much personality, make people spend weeks researching until you could write a 40-page thesis. Low involvement purchases are like gum because who cares? Marketers love low involvement purchases because you can practically trip and still make money. They also low-key love turning low involvement crap into high involvement statements, like turning water into artisanal glacier-kissed hydration experiences. The more emotional the product, the more margin they can charge without crying. This leads to one more behavior twist: impulse versus planned purchases. Impulse purchases skip the entire flow and just say, gimme, candy at checkout, impulse. A refrigerator? planned. If it's impulse, placement matters more than persuasion. If it's planned, persuasion matters more than placement. MBAs love this stuff. It makes them feel powerful. What makes them feel even more powerful is chopping the entire human species into factions and slices. That's segmentation. It's socially unacceptable in real life, but extremely acceptable in marketing. To avoid being roasted in meetings, memorize these 4 classic segmentation types. 1. Geographic, where you live. 2. Demographic, who you are. 3. Psychographic, why you are like this. 4. Behavioral, what you actually do when no one is watching. But it isn't just slashing and slicing. You have to evaluate whether the slice is worth eating. Good segmentation passes 7 MBA approved tests: measurability, accessibility, substantiality, profitability, compatibility, effectiveness, and defendability. If you combine these, you can target precisely. If a segment can't be measured, reached, sold to, served well, defended against competitors, and turned into money, throw it away and find a better slice of humanity. That's called a makeable, but not marketable idea, meaning cute, but we can't make rent with this. Okay, now that you've figured out who you're trying to manipulate, serve, let's do some market analysis, which zooms out from individual consumers to the whole battlefield. First task, define your relevant market, which is MBA code for stop pretending everyone on earth wants your product. Because if everyone is the target audience, then no one is. Let's be real. You're not Google. Maybe you're niche, maybe you're super niche, maybe your target market is 3 people who live in Vermont. It happens. So to start things off, your market should be not too big, not too small. Toothpaste isn't competing with sports cars unless the commercial really goes off the rails. A restaurant might think it's in the food business, but customers might see it as convenience, entertainment, or I guess this is open, or maybe. You're selling one of those super fancy gourmet coffee blends with multiple nationalities in sustainable packaging. Good for you. But not all coffee markets are accessible, and not all coffee buyers are hipsters, and not all hipsters are interested in flavored coffee with questionable origin stories. The relevant market shrinks fast as you filter. Welcome to reality. Whoa, what's that? That's the competition, and it's coming to getcha. Let's face it in step 3, competitive analysis, where you study your competition and try not to cry. Industry factors shape competition: barriers to entry, market share, high capital needs, patents, distribution lock-ins, customer loyalty and switching costs. Keep newbies out or make it tough to stay relevant. Ask yourself this: what can you actually do that isn't embarrassing? That's your core competencies. Can be tech, brand strength, or extremely well-timed memes. Compare strengths, weaknesses, share trends, key resources, and the infamous key competitive factors: price, quality, advertising, R&D, and service. Figure out which one your industry actually cares about. Fast food, advertising, tech, features and patents, chemicals, price and logistics, luxury fashion, everything except price. If your positioning is off, you lose. To delay losing, draw 2 axes, usually price versus quality, or any attributes that matter. Then plot where you and your enemies sit. Suddenly you see the battlefield. That's perceptual mapping. Think of it like astrology for products that says things like sweet versus salty, durable versus fashionable, fast versus reliable, cheap versus fancy, and boring versus exciting. If you notice an empty space far from everyone else, congratulations. That's either a brilliant opportunity or an abandoned wasteland. You won't know which until you go there and succeed or explode. Choose wisely. Okay, enough internal analysis. Time to zoom out and review distribution channels, also known as how do we get this thing to people before it expires or breaks. You can choose direct channels, indirect channels, retail, wholesale, online, teleportation, whatever makes sense. Every channel has power imbalances, margins, and politics. Channel margins are like a conga line. Manufacturers sell bulk goods to wholesalers at a profit, their margin. Wholesalers then sell smaller quantities to retailers, who add their own markup to reach the final consumer price. Basically, everyone takes a cut until math says enough. Grocery stores, for example, charge slotting fees, which is basically give us money or we'll hide your product behind the mops. And retail margin? Retail margin equals retail price minus wholesale price divided by retail price multiplied by 100%. Let's say if a retailer buys an item for $20 and sells to consumer for $50, then the gross profit is $30. 30 by 50 times 100 equals 60, meaning retailer makes 60% profit margin on that item, or 60 cents for every dollar of sales. Understanding margin math is key because it determines your final consumer price, whether you want it to or not. And that leads us into the heart of the plan, the famous preliminary marketing mix, the 4 Ps: product, place, promotion, price. The 4 nipples you twist until your customer says, okay, fine, I'll buy it. Let's blitz through them. First P is product. It's not just the thing. It's features, styling, reliability, quality, packaging, branding, brand equity, extensions, And the question, does this make people happy or confused? Branding is huge because people love meaning. Brand equity is the magical value your brand adds without changing the actual product. Strong brands can sell anything. Weak brands can barely sell what they're supposed to. You can extend brands, but if you extend too far, you dilute them. If you try to sell Gucci branded dish soap, expect riots. Depth of line means how many versions of one product. Breadth of line means how many categories you cover. Big brands love adding both as territorial land grabs, but sometimes more depth equals more SKUs equals more chaos. Speaking of chaos, let's talk circle of life, but for products. That's product life cycle, or PLC. PLC has 4 stages: introduction, growth, maturity, decline. Intro is please notice me. Growth is holy wow, people love this. Maturity is everyone sells this now. And decline is nobody cares anymore. You have 2 jobs. First is to figure out what stage you're in so you don't accidentally spend growth phase money on your decline phase tragedy. Second is to squeeze as much money as possible out of each stage without looking desperate. P number 2 is place, otherwise known as distribution. We partially covered it in distribution channels. Here's some more sauce. Exclusive distribution means high control and prestige. Selective means some outlets. Mass means everywhere that sells anything, including that one gas station where all food is slightly dusty. Your choice affects margins, brand image, customer access, and your sanity. Choose with care. Third P, promotion. Includes advertising, personal selling, sales promotions, PR, screaming into the void, whatever gets attention without getting sued. Advertising is shouting loudly, measured with reach, how many people saw it, frequency, how often, GRP and TRP, reach times frequency, CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, and creatives, the actual ad. The ad can be brilliant, but if CPM is too high, you're basically setting money on fire. Personal selling is convincing softly. Salespeople follow some classic scripts. There's Music Man, also known as Sing and Charm. Animated Catalog, also known as Show Pictures like a kindergarten teacher. Magic Formula, also known as Features First, Benefits Last. Problem Solver, also known as Fix Things and Pretend It Was Your Idea. Sales promotion is give stuff away so customers like you temporarily. Coupons, samples, contests, rebates, free undies with your logo on them. Publicity is promotions someone else pays for. PR and earned media is shaping the story so you look less greedy than you are. Direct selling is door-to-door like it's 1957. Then there's push versus pull. Push is like shoving. Pull is like seducing. Both work. Marketers prefer pull because it feels like a victory parade. Okay. Fourth P, price. Many ways to price: cost-based, value-based, competitive, skimming, penetration, elasticity-based, and more. These are the 4 main ones. Cost-based. Price equals cost plus markup. Value-based. Charge whatever value you create. Competitive. Match or beat rival prices. Elasticity-based. Price depending on how dramatically people scream and run away when you raise the price. Elastic buyers rage quit like Karens. Inelastic buyers are addicts, superfans, desperate, or sick. Pick one, or mix, but remember the rule. If price is less than cost, you are a charity. Also remember channel margins from earlier, because margins matter. Everyone takes a cut. Markups stack, you price too high, no one buys. You price too low, someone asks if something's wrong with the product. It's a delicate dance. Now we hit the final stop on this MBA marketing carnival ride. Economics evaluation. This is where your marketing plan gets hit by a calculator. Does this marketing plan actually make money? You check your margins, your channel cuts, your volume potential, and your break-even. Break-even is the point where total revenue equals total costs, meaning a business makes neither a profit nor a loss, essentially covering expenses. If break-even is high, revise. If your payback period is longer than your product's life cycle, again, revise. If your boss looks pale after reading the numbers, you know it. Revise. That's the revision cycle looping you back to the start. Keep cycling until the numbers start to look less bad and your mistakes stop being mistakes. Okay, now that we've marketed somewhat reasonably, we arrive at accounting, the ancient art of telling the financial truth, using only lies that are allowed by law. The whole accounting universe revolves around MS Excel-powered holy trinity of balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow statement. They all tell the story of the company, what you own, how much you made, and whether you're secretly broke, but from the perspective of 3 unreliable narrators who witnessed the same car accident from different angles. First, the balance sheet. Think of balance sheet as a financial selfie of your business on a random Tuesday. At its core sits the famous accounting equation that accountants tattoo on their love handles. Assets equals liabilities plus equity. Translation: what we have equals what we owe, plus what's truly left after the embarrassment. Assets include cash, inventory, equipment, the office lava lamp. Liabilities are debts, payments owed, and emotional damage from vendor relationships. Equity is what's left for owners if everything is sold and everyone is paid. Everything must balance on a chart. If it doesn't, you're either dumb or committing fraud, or both. Next, income statement, which tells the story of a company over time. Revenue comes in, expenses go out, and whatever remains is either profit or a very long explanation in a meeting. The formula goes like this: profit equals revenue minus expenses. Translation: money in minus money out equals feelings. Revenue is the money customers hand over because they believe the product has value. Expenses are the cost of proving them right. The difference is either encouraging or accompanied by a phrase like, "Damn!"
I'm sorry.
Revenue minus COGS equals gross margin. COGS is the cost of goods sold, meaning how much it costs to produce the thing you sold. Gross margin minus operating expenses equals operating income. Subtract interest, taxes, and anything weird that happened this year, and you get net income, which makes executives happy. Or net loss, which makes them schedule urgent meetings. Then cash flow statement enters the chat like, "Show me the money!" Because companies die from cash shortages, not bad vibes. Cash flow statements keep it real. They look beyond the hype and track real money comings and goings. Cash flow equals operating cash for everyday business activity, plus investing cash, buying big things like equipment and acquisitions, plus financing cash, equity, debt, paying back debt. A healthy company generates operating cash, invests strategically, and uses financing wisely, instead of like a spoiled Zoomer with daddy's credit card. Now you must be thinking, bank statements already record all these numbers. Just chuck them into a spreadsheet, and we good, right? Only if it were that simple. You're thinking of straightforward cash accounting. Businesses use a special trick called accrual accounting, which needlessly complicates life by recording revenue when earned, not when collected, and expenses when incurred, not when paid. So if someone buys your product in January, but pays in July, accrual accounting says January. Cash accounting says July. Your income statement says, "Congratulations, you're rich," while your bank account is like, "You're broke! You're fucking poor!" So why use accrual accounting? Because somehow it provides a bigger, truer financial picture, making business performance more consistent and understandable. It's weird at first, like reading a diary written out of order, but by matching revenues with their related costs in the same period, it makes sure your numbers reflect when things happen, not when money moves. Because otherwise, you'd be vibrating with the timings of bank transfers. Now, let's keep moving, because there's more trickery to uncover. Ever heard of depreciation and amortization? They are accounting tricks that let you expense expensive things slowly over time. Physical assets like buildings and machines depreciate. That means they lose value, and it's handy to know by how much. Straight line depreciation equals cost minus salvage value divided by useful life. Translation: instead of crying once, cry a little every year. Accelerated depreciation is the "I want tax benefits now" method. Amortization is the same thing, but for intangible assets like trademarks, patents, or the cost of buying a company's soul. Next, inventory accounting. Two big methods: FIFO, first in, first out, and LIFO, last in, first out. FIFO sells your oldest items first. LIFO sells your newest items first. FIFO makes profits look bigger when prices rise. LIFO makes profits look smaller, but taxes lower. Companies choose strategies depending on whether they want to impress shareholders or avoid taxes. Then revenue recognition, which answers, when can you say you earned money? Well, did you actually deliver the goods? If yes, sure, go ahead. If no, then no. Next, we meet working capital, the stuff that keeps the business alive day to day. Current assets minus current liabilities. If high, congrats, you're breathing. If low, you're juggling bills. If negative, call the bank. And finally comes the classic MBA reality check. Cash is not profit. Profit is not cash. Cash is real. Profit is a social construct, a story told by accrual accounting. You can have one without the other. Ideally, you want both. A company can be profitable and still go bankrupt, like your favorite gym bro fainting in real life. Okay, now that we've tickled the basics, we move into ratios, the infamous comparison tools that turn numbers into more numbers, but smaller and more judgmental. Liquidity ratios ask, can we pay our bills? Examples: current ratio and quick ratio, which tell you if your short-term finances are healthy, or please send help. Current ratio equals current assets divided by current liabilities. Over 1, you're breathing. Under 1, you're sweating. Leverage ratios assess, how much debt are we juggling? Classic one is debt to equity, equaling total debt divided by equity. Higher means riskier. Profitability ratios wonder, are we actually good at making money? And it's all about the margins. Gross, operating, and net. We've tickled these earlier. Tiny margins means you are working very hard to make very little. Efficiency ratios measure how quickly inventory moves or customers pay. Inventory turnover equals COGS divided by average inventory. Higher turnover means fewer dusty products waiting for adoption. Market ratios, like price to earnings, PE, market to book, MB, and earnings per share, EPS, compare your stock price to underlying fundamentals. They tell investors how appealing or shitty you look. PE equals price divided by earnings per share. High PE means we believe in you. Low PE means we have questions. Ratios simplify complexity. If they look bad, fix the business, or at least fix the PowerPoint. Now we zoom inside cost accounting. Fixed costs stay the same. Variable costs change with activity. Contribution margin is price minus variable cost, which tells you how much each unit contributes to fixed costs, or in other words, money available to cover fixed costs, such as rent and salaries, and to generate profit. Break-even analysis asks, how much do we need to sell before we stop losing money? We've tickled its belly earlier in marketing. Now the formula. Break-even units equals fixed costs divided by contribution margin. If variable cost is too close to price, the denominator becomes tiny, your break-even will shoot into the stratosphere, and you'll need to sell more units than exist on Earth. Okay, enough accounting. Let's dive into finance. Actually, before finance, let's dip our toes into quantitative analysis, the part of MBA where math pretends to make everything predictable. Forecasting. Forecasting uses the past to guess the future using spreadsheets. Regression. Regression uses relationships between variables to pretend you're psychic. If one goes up, does the other go up, down, sideways? Nobody knows. Probability theory. Probability theory deals with the chances of things happening. Probability equals number of desired outcomes divided by total outcomes. Translation. How likely is chaos? Expected value? Weighted average of possible outcomes. Translation. On average, is this really a good idea? Variance and standard deviation. Measure spread. Variance equals average of actual minus expected squared. Standard deviation is square root of variance. Translation. How bumpy is the future? High variance means it's going to be a roller coaster ride. Low variance says, relax, it's a walk in the park. Covariance confuses variance by adding directions. Decision trees. Decision trees show choices and outcomes visually. Take each payoff, multiply by probability, and the best path wins. Sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis tests how fragile your plan is. If changing one variable create massive swings, your plan needs a plan. Also, break-even analysis. Again, then cost volume profit analysis that ties together fixed costs, variable costs, and profit to show how volume affects income. More volume equals more profit, unless fixed costs sneak up on you. If you need to double volume to break even, maybe don't. Finally, linear programming gives you a taste of optimization, allocating limited resources, time, labor, money, optimally. You basically tell a computer, I'm short on everything except coffee. Now give me profit. The computer returns a solution. You take credit. Congratulations. Your boss can now proudly declare,
that's my quant.
Your what?
My quantitative. My math specialist. Look at him.
Now take a deep breath. We're diving into finance, where money time travels. The core idea, time value of money. Money today is worth more than money tomorrow. Why? Because today's money has earning potential, while tomorrow's money has inflation, risk, and mysteriously disappearing potential, which leads us to discounting, math magic that turns imaginary future cash into today cash. Present value, or what it's worth now, equals future value, or amount received later, divided by 1 plus r to the power of t. T is time period, days, months, years. R is the discount rate, which equals original price minus selling price, or discount divided by original price. Higher discount rate means future money shrinks more. To make sure investment is not doomed, take all future cash flows, discount them, and subtract the initial investment. That's your NPV, or net present value. Positive NPV, project is good. Negative, run. 0, you'll break even. Discount rate that makes NPV 0 is called internal rate of return, or IRR. If IRR exceeds the company's minimum required rate of return, also known as hurdle rate, roll your sleeves.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Moving on, the payback period. It's the time until investment is recovered. Simple, quick, filling like fast food. But don't make it your go-to diet because it ignores time value and long-term cash flows. Then, capital budgeting and valuation. Capital budgeting uses NPV, IRR, and payback period to choose investments. And valuation uses discounted cash flows to guess what the whole company is worth. Pick the ones with positive NPV, good IRR, reasonable payback, and realistic valuation. Don't pick the ones someone pitched using vibes. Speaking of vibes, OpenAI AI is worth $1 trillion, apparently. So yeah, it's mostly guessing, hoping, and hyping till everyone believes it. Make that make sense. Alrighty, time for some bond pricing basics. Bonds are fancy IOUs. IOU literally comes from the phrase I owe you. It's usually an informal document acknowledging debt. Pricing depends on coupon or regular interest payments, discount rates, and maturity. If interest rates rise, bond prices fall. If interest rates fall, bond prices rise, like a seesaw, but sadder. Next, risk-return trade-off. It's the universal truth. Higher the risk, higher the return. There's no free lunch, except in poorly regulated markets. And then there's beta, a cute little financial metric that measures asset volatility or how much a stock wiggles relative to the market. Formula? Very statsy. Just remember these. Beta is 1, asset is chill. Asset price moves in line with the market. Beta greater than 1, drama queen. Larger gains in up markets, larger losses in down markets. Beta less than 1, less volatile, more stable, but with lower potential returns. Beta is negative, nobody knows. That's why portfolio theory says diversify. Put eggs in multiple baskets, preferably baskets that don't fall together. Finally, the mighty WACC hurdle. Weighted average, cost of capital. You jump it or you fail. Formula looks hella intimidating. Ignore it till you need it. It basically blends the cost of equity and debt weighted by their share in how the company is financed. It tells you the minimum return a project must earn to not embarrass the company. Lower WACC, easier to create value. Higher WACC, good luck. Congratulations. You survived marketing, accounting, quant, and finance. That's a whole ass year of MBA in like 25 minutes.